What is up, guys? Chick Kackis here, stuck in quarantine with Rick Kackis. Barely holding on.
Hey!
Thank you so much for stopping by. And today,
I should have definitely made a more serious intro because we have a very serious topic to discuss, and that is arguably the biggest and most problematic issue with weapon sunsetting for Destiny 2. Now, for those of you maybe not in the know, weapon and armor sunsetting are going to be implemented within Destiny 2 starting in Season 11 next season, and they're going to be impacting the game in a major way starting with the Fall 2020 expansion. Essentially, all legendary gear is going to have a lifespan. It's going to have a maximum power it can be infused to. So when something comes out, so for example, this season, Season 10, we have the 7th Seraph shotgun. It's going to be usable in this season and 3 more seasons after that, and then it will not be able to be infused to the new maximum light in, Season 14. So you'll still be able to use all of these weapons in Crucible, in lower light activities, but if you want to use them in Nightfalls, in Trials, in Raids, you are going to be at a severe disadvantage if you're doing so. And this is applying retroactively. So pretty much everything from, long seasons ago, Season of Opulence backwards, that is not going to be able to be utilized in those endgame activities when the fall expansion hits. And here we have a problem. I want to make it clear. I am not completely opposed to weapon sunsetting. I very much understand why it's being done, and I think it could be very beneficial to the game if it's done properly, because having new exciting gear to chase all the time and potentially letting Bungie up the power level without having to worry about power creep because stuff will naturally fall off of usefulness in the endgame, it could be very fun. But it also, if done improperly, could be very, very bad. And that's kind of the topic we're discussing today, because Bungie is going to have to do a lot of work to make weapon sunsetting a positive addition. And here's what I mean. Guys, here are all of the bows, all of them in Destiny 2. Now, if you look at the symbols beside these bows, you'll notice that, wait a minute, a lot of them come from when bows were introduced within Forsaken, and most others came not too far after. In fact, of all of these bows, the ones that are going to be viable within the fall expansion are the Vow, and that was a limited time event bow, and then you have the Point of the Stag. That is it. Now, of course, some of you may be saying, well, bows are not getting deleted from the game, and Bungie can always add more bows, and that is absolutely correct. But it's not just bows. These are the single-shot grenade launchers in the game. Again, literally all of them. There is one that will be viable in the fall expansion for endgame activities, and that's the Martyr's Retribution. So with another gun type, we have another very big problem. Yes, you can use these things in Crucible, but for goodness sakes, I've had bows used against me very effectively in Trials. Some people love bows. Some people just dedicate themselves to getting really good with a certain gun type or a certain archetype and just slay out with that thing. They specialize in that thing. They love that thing. And if Bungie doesn't add the requisite number of, bows, because there's multiple different archetypes of bows as well, grenade launchers, and we have more examples. Guys, these are all of the pulse rifles added since the Season of Opulence. And you'll notice that none of these have the Season of Opulence symbol, and that's because no pulse rifles were added that season. Yeah, I thought there would be more too. In any event, the ones that are going to be carrying forward are the Adhortative, only for one season, and then the Infinite Paths 8 and the Yan Sevlin rifle. And that's it. You'll notice there's no rapid fire frame pulse rifles on that list at all. So if you love rapid fire pulse rifles, if you love your Outlast, you're screwed, unless Bungie specifically adds more. Guess what? Another example of that very same thing, this time with SMGs added since Season of Opulence. And we can see the very rare 750 archetype, we have one, the Cold Front. If you weren't around for the Dawning, or you didn't get a good roll of the Cold Front for the Dawning, and you enjoy using those 750 archetype SMGs, you're screwed. This is the problem. There is only 60 weapons in all of Destiny 2 that are carrying forward that will be viable in the fall expansion's endgame activities. 60 out of 503 total legendary weapons added throughout Destiny's history. Guys, that is just below 12%. So of all the weapons, 12% are carrying forward. Or at least that was the calculation until the most recent weekly update, when Bungie announced all of the Season 11 World Drop weapons. And as you can see, there's a lot that were added. Actually, 15 were added. And this is somewhat going to fix the problem, as we'll talk about later in the video. But that extra 15 makes it go from 60 to 75, and that turns it from 12 to around 15%. Of weapons are carrying forward. You can see 15 extra weapons. That's a pretty big deal, but in the grand scheme of things, it's just a drop in the bucket for how many weapons are not being viable. And this is the issue. What I said earlier with the bow and dedicating yourself to getting good with the bow, that applies to all these different weapon types. And I could continue on because honestly, every single weapon type and weapon archetype is going to be affected drastically by weapon sunsetting. And so that means that Bungie, they only added 5 pulse rifles in 5 seasons, and now they're going to have to add, 3 more pulse rifles by the time the fall expansion comes if you want to cover all of the different archetypes? Are they going to be able to pull that off? Because I don't, again, hate the idea of weapons sunsetting. I'm okay with weapons falling off and new ones coming on. Again, if it's done right, it could be a very positive thing. But I don't think it's fair to provide people with no alternatives. It's one thing to say, look, you've been using this pulse rifle for goodness knows how long, and we have a new one with some new perk configurations. It's going to be viable for a whole nother year. Just get this new one, you have it for a year, and then you've got to get another one. That, in my opinion, is not the worst thing in the world. But if Bungie doesn't add, frankly, dozens of weapons by the time the fall expansion gets here, you're going to have people whose favorite archetype just isn't viable in activities that they want to do. Again, replacing your favorite thing is one thing. Offering no alternative is another, and that is extremely problematic. Now here's the thing, my worry could be all for naught. Bungie could absolutely bring it, and usually in the fall expansions, they do. There was a ton of different weapons added within the Forsaken expansion, so likely with this new fall expansion, again, they are gonna bring it. But the sheer number of weapons they have to add to cover all the bases for archetypes makes me concerned. And then I'm also concerned that yeah, these weapons, okay, you plug the gap with one other alternative, but that's it. So again, if you like fast-firing pulse rifles, you might have literally one you can use. And if that has a bad perk pool, or even if it has bad inherent stats, low stability for its archetype, or it has a sight that just sucks and is very hard to use, and that does happen in the game, again, you're kind of screwed. The variety and the choices we have in the game with all these different weapons is simply going away for the most part. Now, Bungie has said the good news is that they are going to be reissuing some of these weapons in reformatted states, kind of like a 2.0 version of certain weapons, and they'll be the same weapon with presumably the same perk pool, but they'll be able to be infused to the new values. So, for example, in the fall expansion, they may re-release the Mindbenders. Your old Mindbenders will still fall behind. You'll have to farm a totally new Mindbenders, and they said that they have a variety of ways of reintroducing these weapons, but this could definitely lessen the problem that I've kind of brought up in this video by, yes, they don't have to necessarily make dozens of more weapons. They could make a dozen weapons and add a dozen more via this reissuing. But then it's kind of like, okay, well, what are these ways to get these weapons? And it is definitely a feels bad moment if you farmed hours and hours and hours to get a good Mindbenders, and they're making you farm the exact same weapon again because this one can be infused at a later time, that's not very good. Weapon sunsetting works if there's new and interesting and innovative things to constantly chase every season. Not if you're getting an outlaw kill clip roll for the 100th time. That is not gonna work. And so yeah, this is something I am legitimately concerned about. I feel like people are not going to respond well if they feel like their builds and their favorite stuff is being taken away from them in the sense that they can't use it in the activities they actually want to use it in the end game. And it also begs the question, like, yes, your stuff is not getting deleted. And I think some people are overreacting, saying like Bungie is like just swooping in and emptying my vault for me. It's not that bad. But are they even going to address the vault issue? Are you going to keep a bunch of your old school weapons that are great in quick play but good nowhere else in your vault? Or are you just going to replace them with the weapons that are actually usable in the endgame activities? I feel like even though the weapons are not being outright deleted, for a lot of people, they're going to choose to delete them because, like, why would you hold on to these weapons that are arguably less useful? They're 100% less useful in more activities, so you have that coming as well. And that's already a feels bad moment if you enhance that by saying, yeah, there's not even an alternative. Your favorite weapon, that archetype, there's not even one you can chase. Or a super limited gun type like bows, like single shot grenade launchers, etc. Even machine guns, there's not that many machine guns. Now they're a little bit more recent, but still. Bungie's really going to have to add a considerable amount of weapons and reissue a considerable amount of weapons for weapon sunsetting to even be viable. And like, this needs to start next season with season 11. There needs to be a considerable amount of holes being plugged when it comes to these rare archetypes, when it comes to these different weapon types and different things that need replacements. And so guys, that's it for the video. Let me know what you think. I am genuinely split down the middle when it comes with weapon sunsetting. I see the positives, I see the negatives. I don't necessarily for sure fall one side or the other. All I know is that for it to work, Bungie has to bring it. What do you guys think? Do you think they can? What weapon archetypes that you guys like to use that isn't getting an announced replacement as of yet? Let me know in the comment section down below. Guys, again, I hope you enjoyed this video, found it informative. If you did, please remember to help me out by simply rating and especially sharing this video. If you guys want to see more Destiny 2 content similar to this, don't be afraid to slap that subscribe button. If you want to get in touch with me and keep up to date with the latest channel activity, the best way is to follow me on Twitter at @RickKackis. That's linked in the description down below. Again, I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, have a good day.